What's up, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Over here at Mike's shop. This is his shop at his house. Got everything tore up. This is crazy. Y'all saw at 710 last week. He had some issues. Car didn't work. Was losing water. Ended up having a leak. What was the matter? The drain line stayed open. The catch can.
The puke line.
So that was the reason he didn't make a pass. But it was a good thing. That was a good thing. Because let me show you what happened. Y'all go to turbojohnracing.com, grab some hats and t-shirts. We got beanies coming out soon and a new style of hat that'll be out very, very soon. Comment, like, and subscribe. Check this out. All right, guys. So this is Mike's new motor. So this is the one that he was putting in. But the other motor was running really good. It actually went personal best, the last time out at Galot.
497.
497. And we were fixing to turn it up and go a little bit faster, but that just didn't happen because we run out of time. They closed at 10 o'clock.
They closed at 10.
No hint of any problem at all.
Nope.
Went to 710 dragway and
Had the car sitting in here, brought it in, changed the oil, no water, no funky stuff in the oil. Put a set of plugs in it, put new oil in it, and then I was test fitting the big tires.
right.
Because we were going to go to JJ's, and then we decided not to. You had problems, and so we all just said no. And I cranked it up, backed it out, put it in the trailer, and we went to 710. And first pass out, it cut a
118, I think it was, or 116.
I don't have the tickets. I think it was a 118. And that, Joey was driving because my back was messed up. But we noticed at about 6,100 RPMs, number 3 cylinder would go dead.
Right. And when he says dead, the EGT
went to 300 degrees.
Right, and then it would just fall off the whole time. And by the end of the run, it was down to 100. And he said it felt like in the car, it felt like it had a little skip, but it didn't sound like it didn't feel like it was a dead hole completely.
No, because at first he thought it was tire shake between the first, second gear.
Right.
But then when we got back, pulled the log file, it's like, wait a minute now, what happened? Because I said, let's check number 7 EGT to see if it was wonky.
Right.
It was better, but it was still flaky.
Right.
And then we looked at number 3, dead.
It was complete.
Dead. Just dropped off the planet.
And you noticed that it was losing some water somewhere.
About a half a gallon every pass.
So wasn't putting anything on the track.
Nope.
So we were like, okay, well, it must have a head gasket then. So he got it all in, pulled it all apart. Head gaskets don't look terrible. When you look at them, I mean, there is a few spots. This is number 3 over here on this hole here. It don't look like it's really leaking anywhere significant. The gasket, not terrible, honestly. Over here on this side, it does look like it had some gaskets that were leaking just a tad. It might be MLS life. MLS steel gaskets. I've heard Pete Harrell used to say back in the day about 1,200 to 1,300 horsepower.
And then they're done.
You start losing seal. So, I mean, you're there. I mean, we made 1,100-ish at the tire, 1,000 at the tire.
A little over 1,000 at the tire with this one.
So, but that's not the big problem. That is not the big problem. What else did you find?
Wipe the thrust bearing out. Now, mind you, under 6,000 RPM, the motor ran beautiful.
Right.
Last pass we made, it cut a 113 60 foot.
Right.
It ate the bearings out of it again. That's your thrust.
Killed the thrust.
Killed the thrust. Killed number 2, number 3, and number 4. Ate the cam bearings up.
And now like I said, before he checked it, there was no metal in the oil at all.
None.
But when he pulled the pan off this time, that's when you saw all the metal.
Oh yeah, it was full.
And so this is the crankshaft, if y'all remember. I mean, this is a decent crankshaft. I mean, it's a Comp Star center billet, center bob weight. What is this, a 4-inch stroke?
4-inch stroke.
4-inch stroke. This is the one that killed
the main caps in the
main caps, that's right. And so thought it was unrepairable, but they were able to repair it.
That's what they said. There it is.
They got it straight, and everything seemed to be fine. I mean, you can straighten a bent crankshaft. It happens all the time. They ended up having to turn the mains down 10, and the thrust is just like mine on my car. I mean, it is beat up. You can see the heat. We just did a video with Kevin, and most of the time supercharger cars and nitrous cars don't really kill it, But I mean, look at the metal transfer here, and you know what could have been happening, Mike, is when this thing was moving so far forward into block, it could have been losing crank signal. So we can actually look at that on the data log.
That's on there for decoration because we're on the crank trigger.
That's right. It's on the front. But same thing. If it moves too far forward, that's what mine used to do.
Okay.
It'll still, mine would backfire, but maybe it was just dropping it just enough. I don't know. We can look at the data log and see if that's.
Why would it pick on number 3?
I don't know. It's a good question. It's a very good question. I don't know. Mine usually just backfires and cuts off. Big fireball.
Other than the log file saying number 3 went dead and number 7 was flaky, and the fact that it was losing a half a gallon of water per pass,
right?
You wouldn't have thought there was anything wrong with his motor.
And I didn't think about looking at the crank signal stuff when we were down there at the track. And I mean, this is the heads. I mean, it's stock style heads. But I mean, you don't see anything like super obvious. Mm-hmm. Rods and pistons. The Ultra H-beam rods from Cali's. It's a decent rod. Looking at the bearings though, there's a lot of contaminants in there. We were just looking at them. This number 1, the bearing fell out. Usually when the bearing falls out, that means it got hot and was detonated at some point. All the other ones stayed in. Some got some piston side skirt wear on a few of these pistons. And we don't understand exactly what's causing that. The bearing looked pretty good in this one. But, you know, if it's detonating, if it spark knocks, then that could make the piston, you know, rock in the bore. And they set these things up at a tolerance to where, you know, they're tight. You got to have the piston skirt tight in the bore, keeping it up and down. Now, one of the things, too, now this is a piston just like mine. It's not a full skirt. A lot of times on the big horsepower stuff now, they're running the full skirted pistons to make it so that they stay more centered, square in the bore. But, I mean, you know, clearly, I mean, this, you know, that's not necessarily the case. Now, these look really bad, but they're not terrible. I mean, it looks horrible. But when he sent me the pictures, I was like, oh, my God. But when you actually put your finger on it, I mean, it scored a little bit, but a little bit of 500 grit sandpaper, 320. That'll clean up, and he could reuse these for sure. So not a big deal. Block, though, on the other hand, is I probably wouldn't use that block again just because of, well, I mean, it would be okay, but might not. I mean,
as many 6-liter iron blocks as there are available,
not worth it.
I wouldn't spend any money to do a shitting thing to it.
Yeah, and then probably that crankshaft 100% is not going to get reused. I mean, just because it's been,
yeah.
This is the third time. Well, hopefully we don't have to do nothing with any of this crap anyway.
Well, I'm not.
Right. Because I mean, now you got another good motor. So this is the one that this is a brand new block. This is a what kind of block is it?
Dart LSX Next Pro.
Okay, so that's a Dart. This is the Monster Series heads. Those are the M311s, I think they were.
Yep.
And so this thing is going back in there. So now he been looking up thrust issues. So we just killed the thrust on my motor, and we went roller thrust. Now on mine, I have the pressure regulator that is supposed to limit the pressure. But we were just talking. We might go ahead and get them to snatch the transmission out, or at least pull that front pump out, and then we can modify the front pump feed. I don't remember if we done that. I don't think we did it.
Well, that's aftermarket pump, so it's already done.
Is it shrinked? Are you sure it's shrunk down some? He's going to find out. I don't think it is. I don't remember when we looked at it, when we took it apart, if it was shrunk or not. Usually they come at a full 1/4 inch. Spacing was fine on the torque converter, so that was something that was fine. So it's got to be a torque converter pressure issue. You know, ballooning, pushing, not necessarily ballooning, but pushing the motor forward, or the flex plate push, and then it just kills it. Something else we just found too, which just is not related to that, but this is the drive. He's gonna. I don't know if that's supposed to be that wobbly or not.
According to this, the TSI front pumps, they've already redone the oil circuitry.
Redesigned. I wonder if that's, I don't know if it's reduced or not though. You can get a hold of them and find out if the converter feed is restricted. I think we used to restrict the converter feeds down to about 150. I don't know if mine's restricted in my pump now or not, because I did change pumps at one time. I know it was restricted And I think it's restricted now, but I'm probably just gonna pull mine out too. I'll probably pull my pump out.
Well, the aftermarket regulator doesn't. I mean, you still got to modify the front pump for that.
So okay, let's talk about this. This is good theory to talk about. So this pressure regulator valve, you hear everybody, they talk about cooler line pressure, right? So cooler line pressure is the pressure that is when it comes out of the actual side of the transmission and it's in the transmission cooler circuit. So that fluid has already been sent through the torque converter, right?
Yes.
So this modifies it after the torque converter. So if it's getting too much pressure coming into the torque converter, and then the torque converter kind of puts a little hold on the fluid to turn to stator, then at that point, you could have extremely high pressure pre-torque converter, and you would never know it. You see what I'm saying? There's no way to check that. You've got pressure feeding there. So back in the old days, they used to have the orifices at 250 thousandths because they wanted the torque converter to have all the flow that it could get. But now that's not necessarily the case. That's not true. So I think we need to restrict it. I think we need to restrict it, and then that way we can make sure we're regulating the pressure in two places. We're regulating the volume going into the converter, and then we're regulating it coming out to make sure it doesn't go. I would definitely get this who is it? Who makes it?
This was T.
AF. Okay, ATF. That's the one I've got. That's the exact same one I've got on mine. It comes preset at like 90 psi. Now the other bad thing is,
90.
I do not have a gauge on mine. Do you have it? You don't have a sensor either, do you?
I got a temperature gauge in here.
Right. So we might need to put an actual gauge on it, a sensor. You got any more inputs on your Holly left?
How about the CAN bus?
You got CAN bus. That's right. So you can take the CAN bus, and we can add it. I need to add a sensor to mine too.
Any 200, 300 psi.
Right. Yeah. It should be. Our goal is to be at less than 100. So 100 or 150. I mean, yeah, that would be fine. So now Mike was, when I talked to him earlier in the week, he was over here kicking butt on this thing, like going to town. Like this thing is going to be in and rocking and rolling.
Yeah. Now I put a big pause on it.
And now he's scared. I mean, I understand. This is a brand new motor, all brand new parts.
And I don't know if they remember or not, but my other Dart motor ruined number 2 and number 3, and I had to special order the caps from Dart,
right.
Which I'm not a dealer, so I had to go through Brian Tula Racing. We had Dart on the phone with a 3-way conversation. They gave us the part numbers. We ordered the caps, and they said it'd be 18 to 20 weeks. Well, I took the block. Over to King Machine Shop in Burlington and told them, I said, they're going to drop ship the caps. So I ordered a brand new crankshaft. This one, it's a Dart CCW billet crank.
All right.
Ordered the crank, the rods, and a brand new set of pistons, and had them drop shipped to the machine shop. Well, he said, okay, when the caps come in, we'll get you in the rotation and we'll get you handled. And then the first error is when BTR sent the crankshaft to the machine shop. They sent it to an address of unknown origin.
Oh no!
So the crank got lost, and then they had to figure out where the crank went. And so they found the crank, sent it back to BTR. They checked it, said there was nothing wrong with the crank, so they just sent it back to the machine shop. So it was sitting there, the rods were sitting there, and the pistons finally showed up, waiting on the main cap.
Right.
Well, a month ago, I got a phone call from the machine shop, and I got it on my phone, and he texted me. It was like 6:30 in the morning, and he said, we got a problem. And I said, okay, I'm at the shop, call me. And he said, okay, I get your block into the jig, whatever the hell he was getting ready to do with it, and I opened up the boxes for the main caps, and they sent you number 1 and number 2.
And you needed 2 and 3.
I needed number 2 and number 3.
Right.
And he said, well, until I have a cap, I can't set. I can't line bore and line hone it to set the crank.
Right.
And I said, okay, so let me get BTR on the phone. I called, and we verified the part numbers that Dart sent us, email-wise and conversation-wise. So BTR calls Dart And Dark says, well, okay, we ain't got no damn main caps. It'll be 18 to 23 weeks to get you a cap. And I'm like,
so the lines just got all crossed up. Just you got one of the 2 caps you need.
right. And we verified those were the part numbers that came from Dark.
Right.
And mind you, once I kind of lost my temper. And shout out to BTR, they took care of me. But I asked them point blank up front before I ordered any main caps. I said, would it not be cheaper for me just to buy another block?
Right.
And they had 4 in stock.
Right.
And I said, I'm willing to buy the block for the brand new crank rods and pistons. And they said, no, we'll get you the main caps. Well,
that's the wrong main caps.
I still don't have main caps.
But they are on the way.
They are on the way.
So they gave you a smoking deal on this for your troubles.
And because I cried a little bit, which I should have.
Right.
They gave me a smoking deal on a brand new block. So the machine shop got the block. It was unfinished. They finished it. They decked it 5,000. They torque plated it. They set the caps. They set the crank. They did all the tolerances and clearance and so forth. And he called me up and said he was done. So I went and picked it all up and assembled it. A weekend ago?
Yeah. So
matter of fact, the weekend we were supposed to go to JJ's Arm Drop.
That's right.
Together.
So the main caps will be here still in 18 or so weeks. So you're going to put that motor back together at some point, or have a spare block anyway.
No, I'll put it back together.
All right.
What I was hoping was to be able to reuse. I said, okay, we'll take this motor apart, figure out what the hell happened to number 3.
All right.
Well, all that carnage, I won't reuse that crank or them rods.
Yeah.
And those heads I'll reuse.
And those rods are, the H-beams, you're probably at the limit of it. I know these are good ones. These are the Cali's Ultra I-beams.
No, these are Wisco boost line.
Oh, these are the boost line ones.
Yeah,
okay.
Boost line, yeah.
They are almost identical to the Cali's. But they are the Ultra I-beam style rods. Very, very, very nice rods. Very sturdy. Anytime you put an I-beam in it, fine. So I think the game plan for sure, he's going to order, the motor is ready. All he's got to do is put the oil pan on it and it is set. So the oil pan and the intake and all that good stuff. But I think I'm going to get him to take that transmission out and we're going to reduce the feed in that circuit.
And I'll get a kit coming.
And then get the kit coming. And I'm probably going to do the same thing since I don't know if mine, I can't remember. So I'm going to probably go ahead and take mine out as well. It sucks. But it's easier to do it now with the motor out. It is what it is.
Well, okay, granted, it's got zoomies on it. You can't hear shit.
Right.
So you can't tell if it's detonating. You
No.
can't tell if you got a messed up rod. You
No.
can't tell anything.
It's just loud. It's
just
so
loud.
loud. But we look at data, we look at plugs, and it has not hurt a plug at all. None. It has hurt no plugs. None at all.
They're in order. 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, 8.
And
Those got 3 runs on them.
when you look at that plug right there, guys, that plug right there, it's got half a burn. The timing is not even to the bend yet, is what I would call the timing. You can see we could fatten it. I don't remember what we were shooting target wise. That one's got oil on it, it looks like. This new motor that's coming, we're probably going to reduce the timing a little bit and add some fuel just to start out nice and safe. Some of these look a little hotter than others, but they're still, all the straps are there. It's not like it's a stupid cold plug. It's a number 10 plug.
And by no means are we killing anything on these motors. If anything, we're creeping up on marginal.
I don't know. It's wild.
But since we were having issues, now remember at the track we changed number 3 coil.
Right.
And that wasn't the issue. Change the plug, change the coil. So I didn't have any spare 575 injectors, so I ordered 2, which came.
Right.
So I'm going to replace number 3 and number 7.
Right.
Just to be sure.
And then you can send those off and get them
Send
flowed.
them off and get them checked.
Throw those in a spare.
But I asked Billy Atomizer, they have never heard of an injector knocking off at 6,000 or 6,100 RPM.
Yeah. Maybe the head was lifting and it was, just lifting the head at that point. So, I don't know.
You wouldn't think that because that block has got titanium head studs in it because it's 4-volt.
Right. It's supposed to be good and sturdy. Well, I don't know. That's our game plan. Part of our game plan. We'll let Mike figure out what we want to do with the tune-up. Motor's good. We're definitely going to snatch that out, drill and tap that orifice. I'll show y'all how to do that. I've shown it before on the channel. It's really easy, but we're going to reduce the volume substantially on that going to the converter. Hopefully it doesn't make the converter super, super, super loose. I mean, sometimes that is a caveat, is if you go too small on the restrictor, then it ain't got enough fluid to make the converter real tight. So, but then you got to take it back apart and then drill it just a tad bigger. So it is what it is. All right, guys, comment, like, and subscribe. Mike, we'll get it figured out. You'll figure it out. There ain't no quit in you anyway.
No.
He likes drag racing.
No, I would like to make, half a season maybe at best. Other people are doing it. Why can't we? I don't get it.
It's the mopar gods, man. It's the mopar gods.
Yeah, well.